Hello and welcome to Screen Views. I'm Dave.
I'm James.
And this is the weekly podcast where we give our views on a film and TV show.
Each episode is unscripted, unedited, so anything can happen. Listeners should be aware that we do include spoilers, so feel free to fast forward, rewind, or simply buckle up and enjoy a somewhat coherent conversation.
Our podcast is based on the idea that there's no such thing as a bad movie. Therefore, for every review, we'll give a recommendation instead of a...
Hello, we're back.
Hello.
Back. Another epic podcast. We're back.
Yes.
Through popular demand. Yeah. So last time we watched Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Has it come back to sting you, James?
Oh, good pun there. Good pun.
Yeah. Or has it come back to eat your food because it knows where your food is now?
I haven't had a desire to watch it again, but it's one of the films that I thought I'd see it again because you know what, it's all right, it's fun, it's nice, yeah. And I thought having a 3-day weekend as well. I thought I might have some spare time and I might just have some late time. I might go see it, but no, it hasn't occurred to me to go see it again. So maybe that's a reflection on the film.
That's unlike you.
I know,
especially with a Marvel.
Yeah, I do like to see it again, but yeah, maybe I'll see it again. Maybe I won't. I know it's been number one in the box office, but it hasn't been doing as well as they hoped it would have been doing. Especially the film with such graphic stuff, in terms of computer graphics. So it must have had a huge budget, and so yeah, it's unfortunate that it hasn't done amazingly well. But I think it's been comfortable enough to carry on. And did you hear someone asked Angelina Lilly, who plays the Wasp, if she wants to have a solo movie? And she said she doesn't at all, because the whole idea of the Ant-Man and the Wasp, they're the couple they're like the couple team in the comic books, and so
they work together.
Yeah, and so to totally abandon that, means you're abandoning that sort of idea. So, yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Have you
we
thought...
have to see what happens.
Yeah.
I think, is Infinity War out on DVD?
Yeah, that's out on Blu-ray, and
I watched it just come out.
They came out a few weeks ago, a month ago. It's because I watched honest trailers and CinemaSins and all that, and they need the DVD to release so they can legally buy it and illegally take snippets from that DVD context.
Okay.
So as soon as the DVD comes out, you get loads of loads of videos online of different clips of the movie. So
okay, interesting.
Yeah, and you could generally get to see bloopers legally, and all the because when we watched when you used to buy DVDs, you used to buy full of the special features, but nowadays they release all loads of special features online legally, so there's less need to go out and buy the film, which I think is a bit silly.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Because you can go out, you could if right now we can go on YouTube and go into the official site so we can look at the bloopers. So yeah, I just think it's interesting. Have you had any more thoughts on the Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Not really, no.
No.
I think, like you say, our summary was it's a good movie, maybe not a great movie.
No.
I mean, I'm not the kind of person who would go to see that kind of movie, definitely, at the cinema twice. I think for me to go twice, a movie would have to really, really impress me. And very few, even Infinity War, I didn't go and see a second time. I was up for it, but I didn't. But so for me, it takes a lot to go and see something again. But yeah, I mean, I still think our sort of analysis sort of stands. It's refreshing that it's not maybe as trying to be as end of the worldy as other Marvel films. So that's quite refreshing, and it's an enjoyable sort of
both
film.
Both Ant-Mans have been kind of nice and refreshing, and that kind of it's just small stakes,
contained.
Yeah,
which was needed, I think, in some ways.
Yeah,
for
because
comic book.
The Marvel series it says a festival of movies, in their in their remit. I try to link the film we're reviewing.
Oh right, yeah.
A big festival of movies. And did you go to the Notting Hill Festival this weekend?
No, I didn't.
No,
sorry.
But so I'm sure you guessed we're going to be talking about festival.
Yeah,
see,
you got me there. You even got me there, James. Yeah. I was like, where's he? Why are we talking about Notting Hill?
Yeah. So we went and saw the festival. I did not know what sort of film. I don't know. I tried to stay away from trailers, and it's been hard to stay away from like the posters of it. But yeah, the festival came out. You had high expectations, low expectations? Just went to mare with this film.
Well, I think for me, I was just expecting an In-Betweeners film without the In-Betweeners, I guess.
Yes.
Because it's called The Festivals and not In-Betweeners 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I was sort of expecting.
Yeah.
Do you want to start off with your analysis?
This film from the start, what relies on people's understanding. Well, I felt it relied on the fan base of the In-Betweeners, and it didn't let off in terms of like creating a character out of. I want to call him Simon, but it's not Simon. It's Nick. Basically, creating a character. If you see Nick straight away,
yeah,
and he's in a similar bedroom to his character Simon in In-Betweeners, and he's with this girl that he was with in the In-Betweeners.
Oh, is she in the In-Betweeners?
Yeah, he's his girlfriend in the In-Betweeners. And I watched it. I basically sat down and thought, okay, when I watch this, it's a completely separate character, and the film would not let me think it's a separate character. And it's weird how, do you know when you see someone in one thing and they're so iconic, thinking, oh wow, that must be written really well, and then you see them in something else, in the exact same character, thinking, oh, okay, maybe that's just who they are. Because I think the great thing about the guy who plays Will in the In-Betweeners, I've seen him in Friday Night Dinners, and I see him as a completely different character. Same actor, still same funny in the similar sort of ways, but I felt like, okay, cool, so he's written one way in one thing, and it's written another way in another thing, and I can really see two different characters from the same actor. But from the get-go in this, I just felt like, oh, this is Simon from the In-Betweeners.
That's funny you should say that, because I thought throughout the film the writing of that character was a bit more like Will from the In-Betweeners, and I actually thought at one point, did they write this for that guy or that character, and just cast Joe Thomas instead?
A reason why I thought it was Simon, because Simon's character has always been involved around a girl he's following. There's always been a main central girl, whether it's Carly or whether it's this girl, and he's always talking about this
chasing a girl,
chasing her, and he's always making a prat of himself, and he's always pining for her. And I just couldn't really see the difference. And there is, from the first shot, the first shot is sort of like comic timing. It's really bad in this film. I felt like they've written a joke in, which should be like a second, maybe half a second. We're going to stretch it out to 5 seconds. We're going to stretch out every joke which could have been funny. I just felt it just stretched way too long, and I don't think I laughed. I did laugh a couple of times in the second half of the movie, but the first half of the movie I just thought was stale and awful, and the cinema didn't laugh. No one in the cinema laughed out loud, which is just crazy. What are your first thoughts of the movie?
So I think, I'm having a similar reaction to you in a sense that, I think the problem with it sort of being the same In-Betweeners team, Joe Thomas in it, and, it's Iain Morris film who directed it, and it was produced by one of the other writers from the In-Between. So the whole team is kind of behind this film in a similar way to the In-Betweeners. So I think it's natural to make that comparison, and it's also because the way that it's sort of written, the way that it's directed, the way that it's sort of produced is like an in-betweeners film. And coming from that point, I think the whole time, you're watching the film, you're just sort of thinking, well, it's not an in-betweeners. Why is this not an in-betweeners go to the festival? And so I think you're sort of mourning that loss throughout the film in a way. But what I would say is that I do have some positives that I think that this film does quite well. So without sort of trying to be too deconstructive with the parts that were perhaps not great, I do think there were some really real positives to the film, and I think one of the standout positives for me is that I think that they really did manage to capture the highs and lows of going to a festival. And
I've never been to a festival, so that might be
yeah, I guess that's something again. I think if you've been, I don't know, I might be making the wrong assumption here, but I think if you've been to a festival, it does highlight all the things that are bad about festival going, but it also sort of looks at why festivals are, culturally, popular and why people go to festivals. And I think what was interesting is that the character Amy, who was played by Claudia O'Doherty.
I think so.
From
the
Love.
Series.
Yeah, so we know her from Love. I think she's a really good actress, but her character, it was like this, in first impressions, she's this experienced festival goer. She loves it. Like, she knows what to do. She has an awesome time. And then you sort of see throughout the film how gradually she's just lonely, and she's going to this place where there's hundreds and thousands of people to try and meet people and to make friends. And, and at the start, that sort of doesn't happen. And then, she, as the film goes on, she becomes more and more interesting as a person, and they sort of bond. So I think they captured the highs and lows of festival going quite well. And I think, and also the kind of like bonds that you can create with sort of friends. And it's that thing where like, I think it's interesting how you can go to a festival and there's so many things about it that are just wrong, but you still come away with this kind of euphoric sort of interesting sort of like experience. So it's kind of like the bad things outweigh the good, or they don't. But I think so I think it did a good job of that.
I thought in terms of like what you said about in-betweeners, I felt like the way in-betweeners works really well, because at any given time you can either relate to a character doing something badly or relate to reacting to a character doing something. And so I felt like there wasn't any strong person sort of reacting to, it's not Simon, what's his name, to Nick's, the main characters doing something. There's no like, that's a bit weird. There was hardly anybody in the film which I can identify with in terms of reacting to what he does, and I felt like that was sort of like this was like thinking, what would the in-betweeners be like if there was only one of them? And I felt like they didn't put enough distance between the in-betweeners and this. And yeah, as you say, there's so many different cross comparisons, but I know that's the last time I mentioned in-betweeners. But yeah, that's the thing that annoyed me. In terms of like the festival, I do really want to go to a festival. This film hasn't really sold the festival more to me.
Yeah, but I think that's because that's what this film could have been, couldn't it? It could have just been an advert for festivals, and that's why I like that it didn't. Yeah, it didn't do that. It kind of portrayed the highs and lows. Of a festival.
Yeah, and but I like the So one of the jokes which I thought I hope they'll write into it. I hope this. I hope that because like the guy keeps on going to Nick saying he looked like Harry Potter, Harry Potter, Harry Potter.
Oh yeah.
And after I finished the film, I wish they did this joke. I wish he got angry and says, him over there, he looked more like Harry Potter. And it's the original In-Betweeners, but instead of the actor playing Simon, it's Daniel Radcliffe playing Simon. And it'd be like a two-punch joke at the same time. It'd be the actual actor from Harry Potter, and it'd be like the In-Betweeners. And it'll only be like a quick snapshot, like only be like a quick snap of it. And I thought that would have been amazing, because there's no payoff to that. Oh, he looks like Harry Potter, he looks like Harry Potter. It's sort of like that only came up twice, and it was just so random and so... I don't know, I didn't like that, but I thought like if they finished it with that, I thought that would have been like a really good, nice little joke.
Expensive one though. Unless you can sweet talk.
Yeah.
Daniel
or get a Daniel Radcliffe lookalike. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that would have been...
Yeah, or just get Will from In-Betweeners dressed up as Harry Potter. It wouldn't have the two-pronged attack.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. In terms of like, what's the Australian guy's name? Jermaine Clement. I wish they wrote him a little bit. All his lines a little bit tighter. Like I say, I thought he was funny, but I felt like every single one of his jokes were just strung out. And I felt like initially on paper, I reckon this looked really good. But performance-wise and the way they just string every single one of his jokes out, I just didn't laugh. The only time I laughed is when he pointed at the TV. He says, "That's my son," randomly when his son was on TV.
Yeah.
And that's my favourite moment of his.
Oh, really? Yeah. My favourite moment was the car manoeuvring whilst singing to Crowded House.
I just felt like went on
brilliant.
A bit too long.
Yeah, I normally don't like jokes that linger. Or do I? No, I don't like repetition, but I like lingering, like a little bit longer than you should be. But I think if it's done well, and in that moment I thought it was done well, it works. But I think, I if I watched it again, I probably think there's other moments in the film that do linger too long.
The petrol bit, I just felt like went on way too long.
Yeah, see, I didn't think that was funny. But the car maneuvering bit, I did like that. Is interesting because what I didn't realise, but Iain Morris wrote a couple of episodes of Flight of the Conchords. So I'm assuming that's where they have the connection there.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of Flight of the Conchords and Jermaine, so I think I can probably forgive some of that.
I was disappointed by the Nick Frost cameo. I felt like it was the same sort of disappointment of Nick Frost being in Tomb Raider. You really didn't need that scene in there whatsoever. I don't think it added anything. I don't think there was... Yeah, I just didn't like it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like... It didn't add anything to the story whatsoever. And the story didn't really commit to this sort of like... Is it... Because the film takes a turn and said, okay, this film's now about finding this girl. It's about detective work, and it's all about one clue leads to the next clue, and they very quickly gave up on that premise. And so the film keeps on starting a premise and giving up on the premise, giving up on the premise. And I didn't feel like I knew the movement of the story because it just kept changing throughout. And and I felt like the film was a little bit lost. I felt like it was just...
Yeah, I think that was partly to do with it was trying to make a point about how everything was about Nick, and he was being really selfish, and Shane is trying to pull him away from that and do what he wants to do and be a friend and have a good time and so I don't know whether that was a commentary about how somebody makes it all about them until they realise that they're being an asshole and everything is about them.
Yeah.
So I sort of think that's why they didn't, because the detective stuff was happening up until the point that they got arrested, and then he sort of, that's when he had a moment of realization that he wasn't a good friend.
Yeah.
And the turning point, the focus then turns towards Shane rather than Nick.
Yeah.
So I can see that they were sort of trying to make a point about that.
Yeah.
And I do think, again, it was that interesting sort of process of looking at like that kind of holiday romance, or which they sort of do in the in-betweeners, and this was more like festival romance. And I did like the little life montage bit. I thought that was quite good.
I thought it was interesting and refreshing that she says like, well, she's not really interested, and so like, I don't know, it wasn't, I didn't feel like it was like slut shaming or anything like that. It's just like, well, I had a good time, but yeah, that's it. I'm not really interested in getting to know you more. And it was kind of refreshing. It didn't make a whole point of that. It's sort of like, she very clearly said, no, hey, like, yeah, it was good, but no thanks, I don't want to talk. I don't know, that could have been like, I could see in other films that could be like sort of making a statement about that, when I don't think she's horrible by saying, I should really want to get to know you. And and the fact that he says, well, okay then, that's fine. I know, it just seemed, that's just really interesting, nice, refreshing, because you don't really get that in movies quite a lot.
Yeah,
it's normally like,
and it's what sort of makes this movie more of a like buddy film than a romance.
Yeah. It's
which I suppose is what the In-Betweeners is as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they're not really steering too far away from that.
I know it's the point in the movie, because they don't really have any chemistry, and but Nick and Shane, the two friends, I didn't feel they had that much. They bounced off each other that well. But like I say, I know it's the point, because later on Shane said, look, you just are self-obsessed, you're not really thinking about me. But that annoyed me for quite a lot of the movie before it made a bigger point of it.
Did the blatant racist repetitive joke annoy you as well?
Or that she didn't remember who his name was. Posh people being represented as dim-witted, stupid people,
I suppose that's
annoys me quite a lot. But yeah, that does annoy me quite a lot, because it's a prejudice which I have in the back of my mind as well. And when I meet people, and sort of I have to sort of suppress that, and actually I have to really try to not let that prejudice in my mind affect when I meet somebody. I know I have that prejudice, and I'm thinking, just meet them, James, and get to know them, and get to know them.
Do you mean that if they sound posh?
Yeah, I just have that. I just have that from growing up, or from media, from like. So I just need to. I suppress that, and I purposely concentrate a lot more and get to know somebody, to create my own views of them, rather than going on them. It's just how I grew up. I saw that all the time, and so I just knew, like, in my early teens, whenever I met somebody with like a really posh accent and who talks like that, I just always went to that prejudice. But I know I'm trying to change and trying to.
Sorry, I know this is changing the subject slightly, but did you not find it offensive that it, why was it the black person that whose name she was forgetting?
Yeah,
like there's no like.
I just felt like it was like a really dull joke. I just kept repeating. It was too dull of a joke for me to even give it a respect of analyzing it.
Or getting offended by it.
Yeah, and it
was terrible. Yeah, I mean the joke itself was terrible, but also quite. There was, it's like I just thought it was quite racist. I mean, in some ways, I thought it would be funny if she was doing that with Nick.
Yeah,
that like
I'm going out with her, and we've met so many times, and but
and if she like remembered Shane, at least there would have been some sort of point there that Nick was so annoying and like negative that she just sort of puts him out of her mind, whereas someone like Shane was quite a positive person.
I suppose we needed to have somebody where she hadn't met as much for that to be. So if she did that with the Amy character, she did that with the Amy character and knew her name straight away, that would have been I don't know. Like I say, the film really annoyed me at a lot of points, and I think if it didn't as much, I think I would have seen that as more offensive.
Yeah,
but
and I feel like sometimes it's just like, you're just rehashing old things that you find funny, like the whole, in the In-Betweeners, there's a whole thing about disabled people.
Yeah,
like there's a whole episode that focuses on disability and in a sort of a way that sort of makes Will look terrible.
Yeah,
but he's just sort of reacting or
he
to what
the
disabled person is doing, or has no idea that person is disabled when he's like having a go at something that's unfair. And and I sort of think in my head that was done well in the In-Betweeners. In this film I just sort of thought it was sort of rehashing that a little bit at the start, and then I don't know, it's just I don't know where I don't know what it was sort of going.
Who else had to give a fake leg? Who else had like that? And they brought that up, but they didn't really resolve that. And I don't really need to know who it was, but then they kept on making a point of finding out. Okay, so what did happen last night? And then I don't know.
And in some ways it would have been funnier, or if he'd like trashed somebody else's tent who's had one leg, but he would thought it was Pete. And was he Pete? Pirate Pete was he called?
I think it's Pirate Pete.
It was definitely called Pirate, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's the Pirate is just on IMDb.
So I've just made up Pete there. But, it would have been funnier if that he'd like trash some random person's tent, and like I do think I don't know, I think on one level this film was a solid comedy film. I think if you're a fan of the In-Betweeners and you just want more of that in a different context, you're going to be okay with this film.
If you're thirsty for more In-Betweeners, it's not as good as In-Betweeners, but it's on the same sort of...
It's in the same sort of vein, isn't it?
If you're thirsty for it, then by all means, this might quench your thirst a little bit.
And I think if you're not familiar with the In-Betweeners, you're just somebody who likes festival going, and you go and see this film, you probably enjoy it as well. So
possibly, yeah. I'm not a festival goer, so
I mean, so I think this film is going to appeal to a lot of people. It's very British humour. I'm not sure if you're outside of Britain how the comedy would come across. So I think it's still got that very British sort of humour to it. I think I know we've like sort of naturally flowed into our recommendation section. I'm just going to carry on anyway. I think what I would suggest is maybe wait for this film to be on Netflix or like free. I don't think it's a go to the cinema to see this film.
No.
However, another positive that I've not spoken about, I think, is that what they did a really good job of in this film is making you feel like you were at a festival the whole time. So I did some research to find out how they sort of filmed it, and I know they went to Bestival to film the police chase scene, and I think the hammerhead bits at the end were done at like Leeds or Reading. So they rose to the challenge of like, how can we shoot a film but make it set in a festival? And I don't think I ever was watching it and thought they're blatantly in a studio or they're not at a festival. So I think they did a really good job in that. And that must have been a real challenge in terms of like logistics and
lighting and sound.
So I think that needs to be commended. The crew did a really good job there, I think. And so from that angle, if you're a filmmaker, is worth a watch.
Yeah.
Just to sort of think, right, how have they pieced this together? Because it flows really well.
Yeah.
You know, some bits are easy, but other bits, you know, would have been quite complicated. I think
one thing that I think I ought to not liked, but I did enjoy, was no fielding scenes. I just really enjoyed seeing him on screen and just
yeah, you kind of miss him as an actor.
Yeah, it's not that great of a scene, but I was just enjoying it. I was soaking it up.
Yeah,
and yeah, because he does really good reactions. He's a really good reaction sort of like actor. So when he's like looking and does the whole that eyebrow and does the whole like, he really works well with people.
Yeah.
And so it's not as great of a scene, but he makes that scene for me.
I thought there were a lot of good cameos in the, apart from the Nick Frost one.
Yeah.
The brother David, Chris Greer. He's in Modern Family. He's he's the guy that had a wedding.
Performed at the wedding.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did seem familiar. Yeah.
That is one spoiler that I don't want to give to people, because it, you know, that's like.
But that whole sequence, I just felt like takes you out the movie way too long. I mean, I think this film would have been a lot better if everything would have tightened up a little bit more. The jokes were a little bit quicker. Same jokes, exact same jokes, but just quicker.
Yeah.
And I felt this film was probably stretched out by about 10-20 minutes because of the jokes. I just felt like, just a bit too strung out, a bit too stretched.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think the film didn't start well for me at all. I think it's a shame. I didn't enjoy the sequence whatsoever. Yeah. I thought the first 10 minutes was awful.
I do think it's like that thing where you could probably deconstruct this style of humor, where, or the in-betweeners, the beats of the films.
Yeah.
In the first 5 minutes we need to have a sex joke. In the first 10 minutes somebody needs to have a public shaming. In the first 15 minutes they need to decide where they're going, what their goal is, and and so on and so forth.
But even in camera movements, so they get dressed for the ceremony, and then the next scene they're eating chicken wings, but you can't really see what they're wearing. And they think, okay, this after the ceremony now, and then they walk out of the shop, and then all of a sudden they're wearing the ceremony gown. His friend has a cap, but Nick doesn't. And so I think, okay, so Nick's forgot his cap, and then the next scene he ain't got his cap, and then all of a sudden he's got his cap. Thinking, okay, well, you haven't shown him with a cap whatsoever, and now all of a sudden he's got a cap, and then I don't know. I look out for this stuff.
I mean, I wasn't paying attention to continuity errors. I didn't get that. But I agree with that. At the end of the film, when they're on the train again, was that on the way home from the festival, or was that going to the festival the following year?
I weren't sure, and then the credits were the other people packing up. I thought, okay, then that's the same. Yeah, that must be the same time they're going home, and
right, okay. I didn't see the credits.
No. I didn't like the rush relationship between, what is it, Shane and Amy. I mean, I could tell they had chemistry, and I tell they really enjoyed themselves. I just felt like, I'm going to leave you two alone because you're like a couple now. So okay, this is getting a little bit, I don't know. And I felt like Nick at the end, going to sit with somebody else. I just felt like I didn't really like that end bit. I felt like they could have finished off with a better. I don't know, they could have finished off with a lot better. Yeah.
Or if it was going home from the festival, if he bumped into one of the other Smurf girls or something.
Yeah.
Maybe there was a.
But
I suppose that was the joke, wasn't it? That she wasn't dressed up as a Smurf; she was dressed up as something else.
No, she was a Smurf, but Amy kept getting confused with a minion. No,
I mean at the end on the train.
Oh, she's like an elf.
Yeah, so it was that's it. Yeah, so it was
But would have been good if she had no Smurf makeup on, the same actress, and he's like, don't I know you from somewhere else? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that could have been. Yeah. See, we're like
we
writing jokes in the film.
Yeah.
That probably would be criticised by some douches doing a podcast.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, overall it was I thought it was okay, and yeah, it was alright.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't walk away from this film like feeling too disappointed, but I didn't walk away from it going, this is hilarious. People need to see this film.
Yeah,
which is a shame because it could have done that.
Yeah.
But what I do think was interesting was the good premise for a film. I'm surprised nobody's like done it before.
Yeah,
and that shows like the good premise for an idea. And I think overall there was enough, humor in there and enough that you can relate to, as a festival goer, that it ticks the boxes of the main target audience.
Yeah,
which is going to be people who are fans of the In-Betweeners, people who like festival going. Put those two together. It's a pretty good film.
It definitely ticks boxes, and it's a safe movie to. Yeah, if you're about.
Yeah, sorry, but for me, there's just something more about even the second In-Betweeners film and the series that you just don't get in this film.
Yeah,
ran a bit flat at times.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
Okay.
In terms of like my recommendations, like yourself, I'd say in terms of the need to see it on a big screen, I'd say that there isn't really a need, and I'd wait till it's on like a streaming provider like Netflix, and watch it next summer just before you go to a festival, maybe.
Yeah, or just after.
Yeah. But yeah, that'll be my recommendations. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on
to next week. Next week is there's a few films which we really want to watch, but we're getting quite limited in terms of the films that are showing in our local cinema. So if we I don't know, there's a few films. There's one film called Black Klux Klan. There's another film called American Animals. Another film called King of Thieves. American Animals, King of Thieves seem like they've got the exact same storyline. We basically, cinemas don't release their times and showings for movies like until like Wednesday beforehand. So it's like every Wednesday they get updated. So we don't think that Black Klux Klan is going to be showing in our cinema. If it is, we might see that. But if it isn't, we'll probably go see King of Thieves. If that sounds like a plan to you.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
There's also was it The Nun that was out as well?
The Nun, yeah. It's a horror film.
There's maybe a couple of others.
Yeah, we could watch The Nun. But
so I guess what we're saying is there's going to be a mystery film next week.
Yeah.
Ooh, tune in.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably King of Thieves.
Yeah. And yeah. And if we get like 1,000 downloads from this episode, we will give the 1,000th downloader free tickets to cinema. I'll pay for it myself.
I'm glad you're saying that last bit, James. Because I hadn't agreed to this competition.
So hopefully, like loads of people now listening, downloading this like crazy. I don't think there's any way for me to find out the 1,000th downloader, so this might be like an empty promise.
Yeah, or that it's not just one person that's done it 1,000 times.
We'll be investigating.
There needs to be somebody who's desperate for a
free ticket.
Yeah, or they have a way of an algorithm or whatever.
Yeah,
to refresh the downloads.
Probably work at minimum wage, earn the money.
Yeah,
faster than.
What we should be saying, James, is that we hit 1,000 downloads within few seconds of release because we're that popular.
Yeah, so. Boom. Yeah, that will be guaranteed prize.
We're not quite there yet.
No,
but the future. You never know. Yeah. Spread the word.
Yeah,
boom. Yeah, listeners.
Be our minions.
Word of mouth. I always think word of mouth. Can't beat it as a marketing tool.
Yeah. Or word of mouth. Yeah, it's all good.
So yeah.
All right. Well, we hope you have. It's getting sunny again. I hope you have a wonderful sunny weekend. Hopefully,
getting sunny again / winter is here.
Yeah,
it's not just coming;
yeah.
It's here. It's like arrived.
We rounded back up to the Game of Thrones quotes again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, check out our last thingy podcast. Our last TV podcast was with Luke Cage.
Yes,
Luke Cage.
Yeah. And the next one's Goliath.
So which is on Amazon
and also
Prime.
coming up, we've got the mini-sodes.
Yes.
So we're going to mash together July and August into one roundup for film and then one roundup for TV.
Yeah. When the mini-sode, there'll be no spoilers in it. And we will generally tell you what our ratings for each of the films we've seen and reviewed in terms of like what do we do? We have our favourite, our worst, and our hidden gem.
Yeah. Or a surprise.
A surprise, yeah.
Hidden gem is normally one that we've not reviewed that you recommend for people to watch.
And then we have a hidden gem because I go cinema quite a lot, so I've seen quite a lot more films, and I'll reveal just my general feelings on the films. And then David watches a lot of TV, and he will talk about the TV shows he's watched, and to give his general feelings on them. But definitely check it out, and we will see you soon.
Yep.
All right. Join us all on social media, Twitters and all that. I say it every week.
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook, YouTube.
And
one day you'll get a surprise.
Soon to be Instagram.
Yeah. Because all the other social medias are riveting like crazy.
Yeah.
But
we need to get on that.
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Well, we'll see you later. Bye.
Yeah.